Okay, we are live on Facebook.
Yay.
We are live on, yay, welcome Julia to the Love Seat. It is so amazing. Actually, I don't think we are live.
It says
we're
meeting
live?
is now. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, oh, there we are. Okay, brilliant. We are live.
Cool.
Welcome,
Awesome.
welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Love Seat. And this week I am joined by the amazing Dr. Julia Sen. Welcome.
Thank you. I just want to say, Morna, before you begin, this is such a beautiful space you've created for all of us, and I'm just so grateful for it. And I'm sure I speak for everybody there when I say that. And it's just, it's been fantastic to be part of this community and to have this space. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate you saying that, because it's really been a labor of love. This is actually the third year that this community has been going, and I want to say that to everyone, because sometimes it can take some time for things to get traction. And I'm so glad that I've stayed here and really leaned into how it's evolved over time. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. So welcome everyone. I'm Morna Haist, the founder of this community, the Revolutionary Woman Community. And I can see a few folks are joining us live. Hi, Lorna. If you're here, let us know you're here and let us know where you're tuning in from. And I'm going to kick off by introducing everyone to you. And I've actually got on my little clipboard today.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of your bio, and I'd love to share it with folks as we begin this conversation. So you're tuning in from Ontario, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And you're a registered psychologist with a full-time virtual private practice. Have you always been virtual, or is this something that's happened?
Totally COVID. Yeah.
COVID. Yeah. And you've been seeing clients for over 20 years with a special interest in fertility, counselling, and parenting, which is amazing. And then you had a growing waiting list, so you started creating some powerful online programs, which is amazing. Helping people elevate their lives from chaos to calm, and we could all use a bit more of that. And you're the parent of two teenage daughters and two little pups, and I have no idea how to pronounce the name of these dogs.
Yeah, the coton de tulear pups. Ooh. So they're from Madagascar apparently, and they're all about cuddles and bathing in the sun, and they shouldn't really be here in Toronto with me in the winter, but
do they have to stay inside in the winter then, right? I mean,
they're out for a walk right now, but they're definitely they like being home on the lap, right?
Yeah, I've got a Shih Tzu, and my Shih Tzu likes being home on our laps. Yeah,
exactly.
He's really not interested in walks anymore. And then the last thing it says is that you are very enthusiastic about personal growth, working with others compassionately to become more self-caring, self-aware, and self-reflective people. And you've published a book called Too Tired to Parent, Take the Car, CAR, as well as the Renewed Parent Group program to assist parents in creating safe and energetically present space in your home for our children to thrive. And I just see a few more people arriving. Welcome, Jill. It's lovely to see you here. Okay, so I'm going to have to actually kick off by asking CAR, what is the CAR?
Yeah, so that is a self-care, self-awareness, and self-reflection. So the whole idea there is to be able to there's a whole car metaphor in the book, obviously, and a gas tank and all of the rest of it. But yeah, the C is for the caring, and then the awareness section, and then the reflection section. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I love that you're starting off with self-care. We were just talking and actually laughing mostly before we came on this broadcast. And I was sharing with Julia that back in the day, I was involved in a play centre, which is a New Zealand-based parent-led cooperative education movement. And I actually taught guiding behaviour positively, which is one of our programs that we did for a long time. And we'd bring parents together, and we would all talk about what was going on, and then it would get to the point where, we would come up with kind of the plans and whatnot. And I would say to the parents every single time, the first thing you need to do is go home and take a weekend off. Like, actually refresh yourself and, put some fuel back in the tank. Because often, I'm curious about what you would say here, I know in my journey as a parent, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy, and especially takes a lot of energy to turn the ship or to, yeah. So what else is coming up for me is really parenting in the time of COVID. Just being a parent, like full stop. What have you been finding in the parents and children, the families that you're working with, and what people are facing and working with?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's such, I mean, all of us are really sort of going moment by moment and trying to figure out the best ways to handle this. You know, even from our perspective, we don't know, like from the guiding perspective, this is new to us too, right? You know, there's no research on this. There's no, like, we don't have anything to sort of back it up other than intuition, really, and really slowing down to listen to what's happening in the dynamic, right? So, and honestly, that's kind of what we needed in some ways. So that element of it has been helpful. But the idea is to be able to really help parents stop and listen. Right. So when they're working, so the biggest difficulty I've seen is that I'm working from home. My child's basically working right beside me, you know, and they need me because their Zoom is crashing or whatever you know, and it's overwhelming because we're trying to focus on our work and there they are. And so, you know, even working, I remember talking to one parent, I'm like, okay, during like every 15 minutes, can you just get up from your work and go over to your child and give her a hug, right? Give her a hug and say, I'm here. And just for 30 seconds, so she gets grounded again and then gets back on, and then you come back. And the interruptions are less because of that, because otherwise they're like, mommy, 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 right?
Right. And sorry, why isn't it daddy, daddy, daddy? We can talk about that also.
No, exactly. Right now we're talking, exactly. But it absolutely is. Yes. And to be surprised now, I mean, a lot of my clients are coming back and the daddies are the ones working from home and yeah, they're not sure what to do. Right. You know?
Yeah, right. And I can just see a few more people joining. Hi, Hara. It's lovely to see you. If there are folks here, let us know where you're tuning in from and say hi. And also, if you're watching the replay, it's interesting. So you can obviously probably everyone can hear from my voice that I'm not North American. And this time last, hi, Leela. It's amazing to see you tuning in from Mexico. That's so cool. This time last year, literally on Monday, I would have been getting on a plane to go back to New Zealand. My mother died at the end of 2019, and my 94-year-old dad got on a plane to come here. Wow. Ostensibly to live with us forever, but then kind of looked around and went, I don't want to be here. And then, you know, in early March, he said, I want to go back to New Zealand. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back with you. And he was going to live in a new place. And so I ended up actually stuck in New Zealand because I couldn't get out, and ended up separated from my family for a couple of months. But what was really interesting for me to watch when New Zealand went into lockdown, and I don't know if you know much about New Zealand, but it went into one of the I guess severest lockdowns on the planet, because it effectively eliminated COVID and has effectively eliminated it. Because it's an island, they were able to close the borders, and there are now a few community cases, but it's really nothing like the rest of the planet. Yeah. But what was so interesting is that what I noticed is this immediate scramble to just take everything that we did in the outside world and put it into our homes. So, you know, how quickly can we get work up and running? How quickly can we get school up and running? And I just thought, what a lost opportunity. You know, what a lost opportunity, especially for the New Zealand government, who could have been putting out messages of, right now the focus is on love and looking after each other and connecting, rather than this immediate scramble and then stress and angst about how to do all of these things.
Exactly 100%. And that's what, you know, with parenting, the level of stress, you know, that we as a society put on ourselves, or however, is really the key to putting a hole in our gas tank, right? You know, so like you said before, go out for the weekend, replenish, go back. But then when we hit Monday, by Wednesday, we have like a whole bunch of holes poked, that are not helping.
Yeah.
Right. And it's exactly that. It's this rush to keep moving along in what direction I'm not even sure for, but it's like we're just supposed to do it. Right. We're supposed to work. We're supposed to be in school. So that pressure is really eating away at us and our relationship with our kids, right? Takes the space away. Yeah.
Well, then how do we then create a sane relationship with the people that we love the most in an insane world?
Yeah.
What's the key? Tell us.
Yeah, the key. I promise you, this is the key. Okay, the key is what you and I were doing before we just started this session: laughing our heads off. Right, like laughter, that humor, bringing it in. My daughter was in the room yesterday, like, when are you letting me quit school? Right, and I'm like kind of not, right, but she was in this adamant space of, I need to complain, right? She's 16 and she was just in the space. She had to complain. She was just, this is wrong, that's wrong. And she's not actually normally that much. And I started like just sitting there listening to her. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's terrible. I know. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not arguing with you at all, and I completely just agreed. You're right. And we still have to go. So let's try and figure out how to make it a little bit better. And then I started laughing, and I just start laughing randomly I don't know why I do that. And then she starts laughing, and then it was over, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I had a similar experience with, I'm just going to whisper because she can hear me. Sometimes I take my 16-year-old on drives in the car because there's no escape, right? Like, there's no escape. Right. And although she did take her seatbelt off and say, like, I'm getting out of here. But anyway, yeah. But we ended up actually going at it in the vehicle. And her and I have a very similar personality type. And we're going at it. And then we had this moment where we looked at each other and just burst out laughing because it was so ridiculous,
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Yeah. Like, we don't have to take things so seriously. Right? Like, that's really critical.
Well, I think this is a message that actually we all need to really receive. And let's talk about this a little bit, because for whatever reason, and I kind of know the reason, that's not the message that my kids have received in the school system, especially in North America. And it was so interesting for us. We were in New Zealand, and we lived in the States for a year.
Okay.
Ooh, no.
Yeah, very
came
different.
Oh my gosh. I came up to Canada, and in New Zealand, and maybe it's different now because I'm a little bit I'm over the age that I would be in school by a long, long way. But it was pretty casual. Growing up in New Zealand, there's 5 universities. You needed 30% pass rate in the final year of school to get into any university you wanted to.
Wow.
Exactly. And they're all ostensibly the same, even though they pretend to be better than the other. It's, and then coming to North America, when we went to school in Boulder, Colorado, the school we had an app on our phone, and the school was reporting in on my kids' grades in every period.
What?
Can you imagine? And then my child didn't thrive. In fact, it turned out to be an actively disastrous experience for her mental health. And when I started challenging the school, the guidance counsellor said to me, on any given day, we've got between 20 and 30 kids who are so anxious we can't get them into the school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what for? What for? What is this all for?
I don't have an answer. That's the problem. I don't know what for.
Why are we? It feels like we're all kind of actually conspiring is not the right word, but we're all agreeing to continue on in this madness by.
Right.
And just even reflecting on the conversation I literally just had with my 16-year-old, who really, here in British Columbia, we've moved to a semester system. So it's like this: if you miss any school, forget it.
Oh, yeah.
You can't keep up. And there's just no way for her to thrive in that environment. So she's kind of received the message that she can't do it. Whereas, of course, we as adults see the bigger picture, hopefully.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So what would you say to some of these kids who are just feeling really just disenfranchised and
yeah. Honestly, it's extremely difficult for them because it is so urgent. Everything is so urgent around them, you know, and again, I don't know where this urgency came from or why we think we need the urgency and where are we going so fast. Like, it's, so from our perspective as a parent to that child, it is really actually hearing them and agreeing with them, again, without letting them drop out or necessarily that, although even that makes me like, my daughters, right?
Well, yeah.
Like I don't love the way that our systems have been. I love teachers. I love the idea of learning. I love all of that, right? You know, it's just somehow the system is not working with the growth that our, well, society has, right? Like technology, everything else. I mean, there's little people who are doing incredible things at 10 years old or 13 years old. And it's fantastic. And it's just not what it was. So we do need to make a change. I guess our kids are not going to be the ones that are going to get, the benefit of the change of that system. I think it's coming. But so for right now, knowing our children are in this transition period where they shouldn't be doing traditional school, but we're not at the level yet of moving forward in some creative way. So we need to validate that for them, that this is really hard, right? This is really hard. I know it's tough. It's really, it really sucks. Like it's just the straight up sit with them and I get it. And I know it is, and we still need to finish, or I mean, whatever your desires are, so.
Right. I love that. I love what you're saying, because it's similar to what Ella and I were talking about in we did a little transformation school video last week, and we were talking about how to feel good even in challenging times. And we were talking about the idea of that it's this and it's this, that, and I think especially for younger people, there's that tunneling into to not really, I want to use the phrase understanding a fundamental piece of life, because I guess at my age, I've come to understand that life is like that, challenging and amazing, hard and wonderful.
Totally.
Yeah, sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do, and and you can be okay. And I think that's one of the biggest messages that around all of this that I've really tried to communicate to my children, that no matter what's going on, there's the possibility of being okay. And there's runway, right? Because I think also for kids and for teenagers, what's happening is their life. And they don't yet have that experience to know that whatever's happening right now is going to change. Mm-hmm. And that there's time. I mean, how many of us have changed the course of our lives over and over again? And I will say, just to bring in a plus side, because my oldest daughter has a chronic illness and hasn't been in physical school for a long time, there are so many pathways now available to young people, bridging programs into university, different kinds of programs. So I always remind myself of that, and that helps me, I guess, relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. There's always going to be an option. And what you said before, I just want to sort of touch on that. They're going to be okay. The key to them being okay is us providing that also, right? The space for them to have a bad day, have something go wrong, knowing that home is their safe space, right? And that means whether, if a child is a little more introverted and they just need their space, that means they come home and they do nothing related to us and they just go to their room and hang out because that's their safety and I won't demand anything. Or if they're more extroverted, then it's the opposite, where they're going to want to hang with me and I want to be there with them. So knowing what our child, what they sort of naturally are and providing that safety. So is critical. And then they can get out in the world and they can hit lots of, obstacles and everything else, but they know that this is a safe space, because everybody needs one place that's safe. And I want that to be our home. I mean, that's the best place it should be, right? So that's the goal. Yeah.
I so hear what you're saying, and I agree. And I feel a little emotion around it, because my question for you is, I totally agree about the safe space, and what is my role in terms of, I guess, this action? of kind of steering them. And I know I'm using a pushing motion, and maybe my body's actually giving away what I really think, but but you know, I mean, I find it really hard not to worry, because I see the state of the world. You know, I'm actively working on changing it, right? And I worry for them. I know how dangerous it can be to be a teenager. And what I've found increasingly, especially as they get older, and there's this, I guess there's this almost, well, there's a changing of roles between us. It can be really challenging as a parent to, I find anyway, to navigate that. It's so different from having a younger child.
You can control where they're going and what they're doing. Yeah.
Well, there's more of an illusion of control, isn't there? Really, sure. At that. Well, I mean, I'm not, but you know what I mean. Like, there's, yeah, like, but yeah, you can control their activities, the friends, the whatever. That is, you know, that train left in my household quite a long time ago.
Totally.
Quite a long time ago, and to actually have that moment of realizing that, and this may sound weird, that they are their own people, that they're actually not just extensions of me. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
It's
knowing that, Morna, that's huge, right? That's amazing that you know that they're not extensions of you, because they are their own separate little souls, right? They're on their journey, and all we can do is give them some guidance and, again, provide that space. Now, to provide that space means we have to take care of ourselves, which is why self-care is the predominant part of my programs, right? You know, it's really critical. There's nothing selfish about it. It's entirely about when I'm full, that when I'm well, they're well. That's kind of the mantra, right? You know, and it's so, like, it is scary, right? That you're launching them off, right? You know, and they're out there, and you know, they're driving or they're whatever, you know, like it's
I have a driver.
Very,
yeah,
exactly. So
yeah.
And I think that the key, again, is to then be able to notice, what does the worrying do for us? Like, for me, as I'm worrying, what does it do for them knowing I'm worrying? So worrying can, I think, for a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of parents about this, but, you know, and I asked straight out, do you think worrying means you love them? And they're like, of course, right? And I'm like, okay. The problem is that worry is fear, and fear doesn't get experienced as love by them. So even though you're like in a great intention and you want to keep them safe, and that's beautiful, absolutely. It's just that, what energy are they feeling when you're in that worry state, right? So that's why kids, like, I don't know, they don't love me. I don't feel like they love me, like it, because they're just constantly worrying, right? The parent. So the key there is, again, to compassionately acknowledge that, yeah, it's a really scary thing to let our kids launch and do their own thing and all of that. And, right, you know, shifting and calming our system down through not like justifying, oh, they'll be fine, or trying to convince ourselves that they'll be okay, but actually knowing that if I provide that safe space, they will bounce back, even if something happens, right? Like, I can't save them from everything. I wish I could, but I can't. And another little trick, this is just an aside, Morna, but I switched all my parents from worry to wonder.
Oh, mic drop.
That's yeah, it just, like, try and say it, like, I'm so worried about my child. We look down, we're closing our energy, like there's nothing good coming out of that, right? And then, but I wonder what's going to happen, right? Wow, she's leaving home, like when my daughter left for university. Wow, she's leaving home. I wonder how she's going to do. It opens my mind. It opens up to the, you know, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I love to go. I just put worry to wonder in the chat to underscore it. And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's definitely something we had, I would probably call it a familiar kind of trauma happened for us in the United States. And it took a lot of intentional work for me to get my nervous system back to my natural state, which is open. And I, one of the practices that I attempt with my kids is just taking a few moments to come into intention around how I want to show up in my relationship with them, and just pausing as I come in, because I notice I noticed some really, I mean, obviously by the time you've got teenagers, there are perhaps some ingrained patterns in the family that are less than, like less than ideal. I noticed for my teenagers that tone of voice is a really big one. Huge. It doesn't really matter what I might be saying, but if the tone is not quite right,
just set them right off.
Yeah, totally. And also that back in the day I trained as a social worker and other things, and I learned about entrainment of physiology, and so I also, will sit next to them, and even if there's nothing to say, I can help them just with my own breathing pattern, just with my own physiology, right?
Totally.
Right. And then now I've got something provocative, because we've got a few minutes left, and then I want to ask you one kind of question. The other thing that has been different in my house, so I grew up in a household where emotions weren't something to be experienced. They were something that happened somewhere else or never. And I think in my household, I've kind of, as we classically do, I've gone, the other direction. And so there's been so I guess part of what I've tried to create is an environment where any emotion is okay. Like we can just express anything here. Mm-hmm. And that's been really hard. I mean,
yeah. So here's the catch to that is we have to learn distress tolerance in order to be able to let that happen easily, right? So it's a beautiful thing, and it's exactly true. Let any emotions happen, right? I want to differentiate emotional expression from blaming or criticizing, right? Like,
I'm not talking about that. Yeah.
Just go on valid emotional, like I just need to, right? Like my daughter yesterday, she was just needing to like let that frustration out, right? So, and that's okay. But I was feeling myself, even as she was going 20 minutes going, I'm like, okay, I validated a lot. Now I'm starting to feel my, that's when I started laughing, right? To cut it, right? To sort of shift it. But that's so as you learn, I mean, meditation, of course, is going to be critical to being able to center and ground and all of that. Helping our kids learn meditation early. There's some beautiful meditation programs out there that it's so worth investing in that, because it really lets us be that self-caring parent. Takes a lot, even start with 1 minute, but get that moving, and then role model it to your kids so they can do it too. But I think that from the distress tolerance aspect, like that's the key. I have to be able to tolerate that distress so that I can allow the emotion. The reason the emotions were not allowed, Morna, is because they couldn't tolerate distress, right? Why were emotions over there? Because they couldn't handle it.
Oh, wow. I want to drop my mic again. If anyone else out there has a little tiny mic that they want to send me in the mail, I would love it, because I want to drop a real mic. Okay, that's huge. That actually rings a huge truth for me, in that the times when I'm at my most vulnerable, or not vulnerable, if I'm tired, if I'm stressed, if I'm whatever, I just want to fix it. I just need it to stop. And I go into my unhelpful, what's wrong? All of these really unhelpful area. And what's wrong is a really unhelpful question, just by the way.
I love how aware you are. That's so good, right? Like, it's so good that you know that that's unhelpful. That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do. I do. And I have a thing called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and so does my youngest daughter. And it's largely, it's managed really well, also through meditation. I highly recommend it. I've been doing it for 20 years. And it gives you that muscle in the moment, that muscle piece. But I've also, there'll be times during the month where I'll just give fair warning to my family. I'm not going to be as available as I normally am right now, because I'm not going to be able to be available to you in a healthy way.
Beautiful. So good.
Oh, thank you. Do I get a gold sticker? Do I get it? Good. Yeah. I actually want to go there before we leave, because I think as parents, like, we're searching for, like, am I doing a good job? Am my kids going to be okay? Because we love them. And, and I also believe that this generation of parents, or the way we we're so exposed to so many messages as parents that it is almost impossible, I find anyway, with my kind of peer group, for us to feel like we're doing a good job. But also I think my personal feeling is that we've not over empathize. I can't get the word out. We've made parents responsible for stuff that I'm not sure they are, or we were ever designed to be. Like like if our kids don't turn out, it's on us.
It's on us, right? Exactly.
But actually, they are separate humans, and of course, we have a responsibility in it. But I think we've gone a little too far over the kind of helicopter. We can control the outcomes.
Yeah. Honestly, as soon as you're trying to control the outcome, you're not going to get it. So there's the helicopter parents will have successful children. And I say that in quotes, because does the child want that success, right? Does the child want to be, I'm going to be very stereotypical right now, but does the child want to be a doctor, right? Did they really want to do that, go that route? And if they did, great, right? That all worked out, but they did it, right? Then it was that helpful, because then we just control them into something that they're going to be, unhappy with, right? So
right. Yeah. And that's, my girlfriend is a career counselor, and she said her biggest client was young women in their 20s, law school graduates who started law school and went, what? Like, how did I get here? Like, what? How did this happen? Okay, Julia, we're reaching the end of our time together, and I want to say a couple of things. One is I want to share with everyone that you're on a mission to impact and influence 1 million children, 1 million parents, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how can folks find you? What are you offering right now? How can people connect to you and become one of these 1 million families?
Totally. Yeah. So probably the easiest is just my email for I have an umbrella sort of program called Awakening the Wisdom Within. And that is there's an inner child section for all people. And then there's the parenting sections as well. So I have an email for that. So it's just my name, Dr. Julia Sen, AWW, @gmail.com. So AWW is for Awakening the Wisdom Within.
Oh, hang on. Dr. Julia Sen, AWW, hang on.
No. So DRJULIASEN, AWW, @gmail.com.
Awesome. I just popped that below this video right now so that it's done. And maybe if you could pop under the video afterwards, just a little blurb about what you're offering, that would be amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Julia.
Thank you. Oh, this is amazing. Amazing. I loved it. It was so great to connect with you and everybody.
Thank you, everyone. And by the way, that was Julia's very first Facebook Live. So you're a natural. You're super, super awesome at this. And I can't wait to see you live on your page. I'll come.
Cool. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much, Morna.
You're very welcome. Is there anything you want to say before we pop off to people who are watching?
No, just take a break tonight.
Okay, take a break. Okay. I'm going to take your advice.
Yeah, go watch funny YouTube videos and goof around with your kids. Just have some fun.
Goof around. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go goof around. Thank you, Julia. See you soon.
All right, take care.